Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Casbon. She's here. Mr. Lauren. Mr. Hines. Mr. Richard. Ms. Qureshi. Mr. Willie. Mr. Matthews. Mr. Davis. Mr. Manella. Mr. Mackey. Mr. Doherty.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, all those with phones or pagers, please turn them off or put them on silent. If anyone has an appeal or appeal cards on the end of the railing to my right, as well as speaker cards. If there's anyone wishing to speak from the public, there's a 10-minute time limit for the presenter and the public, and a rebuttal of 5 minutes. If you have discussion on any of the items, please exit the building, not just go into the lobby because it causes distraction. Please rise for the invocation by Mr. Willie.
Most merciful and Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to meet here tonight. Guide our decisions, guide our debates as we make these decisions for St. Tammany Parish. Forgive us where we fail thee and guide us and keep us safe when we go home tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mr. Manella, pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the July 10th minutes. Have you had an opportunity to review those?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve, seconded by Mr. Manella. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Public hearings, consent calendar, performance obligations, and entering parish right-of-way. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically dispensed by vote as approved and or as per staff comments. Items pulled from the consent calendar shall be discussed and voted upon individually. Staff, you have any that needs to be pulled?
Yes, sir. Under consent calendar, under minor subdivisions, both those cases need to be pulled for discussion.
Both items? You
Mr.
said both
Chairman?
items, right?
Yes, both
sir.
minor subdivision items.
Move to
yes.
pull.
All
Both
right,
those
we
two.
have a motion by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Davis to pull those two items. It's minor subdivision, MS 12-07-027, a 195.13 acre parcel into lots 1 and 2, Ward 7, District 7, owners John and Valerie Van Bracken and Jeffrey D. Shane. Parish Council District Representative is Jake Groby.
Well, you want to be home drinking a beer and watching TV, I know.
Please vote on the motion to table. Oh, we had to pull, I'm
Motion to
sorry, to pull. Motion carries. Second item is minor subdivision 12-07-028, a 3.06 acre parcel into parcels A and B, Ward 1, District 1. Owners Robert and Sheila Graham, surveyors LS Land Surveying, Parish Council District, Honorable Marty Dean. Do we have a motion to table?
Motion to pull.
Pull, excuse me. We have a motion to pull, Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Matthews. Please vote. Motion carries.
About $108 grand a year.
All right, anything else, Ron?
That's it as far as pulling.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any to pull?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to pull on performance obligations, Wadsworth subdivision, Ward 4, District 7.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Davis to pull Wadsworth subdivision, Ward 4, District 7, amount $10,000, expires October 3rd, 2012. Debtors are ASB Fund and Wadsworth LLC, Parish Council District. It's in error, it says Jacob Groby. It's actually Marty Dean, District 5.
Marty Gould.
Marty Gould, I'm sorry. Wrong one. So we have a motion and a second to pull. Please vote. One more. Motion carries. Thank you. Any other from the commission that needs to be pulled? Mr. Matthews?
I'd like to pull the Village of Normandy Oaks subdivision, Phase 1.
Which one?
The Villages of Normandy Oaks subdivision, Phase 1.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Matthews to pull the Villages of Normandy Oaks. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Davis. Villages of Normandy Oaks, Phase 1 subdivision, Ward 1, District 1. Amount is $13,300, expires October 5th. The debtor is Allstate Financial Company, Parish Council District, Honorable Marty Dean.
You got a window in your office?
We have a motion and a second to pull. Please vote. Motion carries. Anything else from the commission?
Really? Oh, it's nice.
I'll entertain a motion on the consent calendar. Motion by Mr. Richard, seconded by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Let's see, we need some votes, folks. One more. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. First one on the agenda is Wadsworth subdivision, Ward 4, District 7. Amount is $10,000, expires October 3rd, 2012. Debtors, the ASBE Fund and Wadsworth LLC. Pull that. Staff pull it.
The above referenced performance obligation
Davis.
expires October 3rd, 2012, scheduled for review by the Planning Commission at the August 14th, 2012 meeting. The work covered by the performance obligation has not been accomplished. Attached is a copy of the 90-day notice to the developer from the Department of Finance. Therefore, it is recommended that the performance obligation in the amount of $10,000 not be released at this time and to be reviewed at the September 11th, 2012 meeting.
I have a question for
Dave.
staff on this one. I mean, obviously, we're not going to go ahead and make any motion on this tonight, and it's supposed to be reviewed as September 11th. But can we send the actual owners or the developers of this property a letter stating them to be here and explain to us what's going on with this? Because this is 6.5 years now. We've been waiting on something to do something with this property. I was just wondering, can we do that?
Yeah, I can.
That, I don't know if you know this, this is where the land, by the interstate, and
Yeah, I know it very
they were
well.
waiting until they put that interchange in, and that's why they kept coming, because the infrastructure was coming in, and because it was such a large piece, and they were developing it almost as, not as a PUD, but by pieces, and because it was so much land,
That
that-
has changed
and,
dramatically.
Yes.
right, but,
That's no longer the case.
Yeah, remember, if anybody recalls this, originally it started out as a PUD, then they requested an industrial site. I'm just curious about what's going on and why we just keep extending these things. But I would like to know if you could send them a letter of intent to be here for that September meeting.
Yeah, we can do that. If I remember right from the previous time it was renewed, I think this is regarding a street that nobody has a need for yet.
Right, right.
Jimmy, let me get a comment here from Mr. Hand.
This matter is in litigation, and the parish was made a party defendant to the litigation. Apparently, the litigation is over two entities that have ownership out there. Neil went to court several months ago on it, and I can report back next month what the status of that litigation is. But, I mean, you can still ask a representative to come forth next month to explain. I just don't know if they're going to be in a position to tell you, all the details of it, but I know it is in litigation.
Right. I still would like to be able to send that letter. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion on it.
I'll make a motion to
Motion
send
by
a letter of
Mr.
intent.
Davis, second by Mr. Willie. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
don't we have to approve this and then send a letter? We can't not approve it. Yeah, okay.
And send a letter.
That's correct, Bill. One more, who's not voting? Martha, You need to vote? One nay, okay. Motion carries 7-1, thank you. Next item is the Villages of Normandy Oaks, Phase 1 subdivision, Ward 1, District 1, amount $13,300, expires October 5th, 2012. The debtor is Allstate Financial. Parish Council District, Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
The above referenced performance obligation expires October 5th, 2012, and is scheduled for review by the Planning Commission at the August 14th, 2012 meeting. The work covered by the performance obligation has not been accomplished. Attached is a copy of the 90-day notice to the developer from the Department of Finance. Therefore, it is recommended that the performance obligation in the amount of $13,300 not be released at this time and to be reviewed at the September 11th, 2012 meeting.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Yes, I have a question, since my motion was pulled on. Whoa. Okay. Can you tell me what the work that has not been accomplished comprises of? Do you have any idea?
I would have to look it up. I didn't bring that with me. It's just a notice.
Okay, I'd also like to move to approve this, but ask the developer to come tell us what he has not accomplished and why.
We have a motion to approve, requesting the developer to be present at the 9/11 meeting. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Davis. Please vote. Motion carries. Minor subdivisions. MS 12-07-027, 195.13 acre parcel into lots 1 and 2, Ward 7, District 7. Owners John and Valerie Van Bracken and Jeffrey D. Shane. Council district is Jake Groby. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason why this had to be pulled was and a waiver would have to be approved, is Lot 2 does not meet the minimum lot frontage requirement of 300 feet for the zoning district that it's in, which is an A1 zoning district. The owner is proposing to create 2 lots from one parent parcel. However, proposed Lot 2 does not meet the minimum lot frontage requirements of 300 feet for A1 suburban zoning, which requires a waiver of the regulations. But since the lot opens up directly off of the public road into a very large 166.66 acre tract, expanding over 2,495 feet in width, the staff has no objections to the proposed minor subdivision request and supports a waiver of the lot frontage. Since a waiver of the regulations is required in order to approve this minor subdivision request, a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission, 8 members, is needed in order to approve pursuant to section 40-100 waiver of regulations of subdivision regulatory ordinance number 499.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Good evening, Jeff Shane of Jones Giselle, and I represent the property owners, Mr.
Ron? Excuse me just a minute, Jeff. Check and see if that is set right. Ron?
Is it on?
No.
Look on the.
There you go.
That's it.
Thank you, Carlo. I knew Carlo was gonna support one of my cases. I just didn't know. And I say that because we get along so well, but I knew it would just be a matter of time. Good evening again. Jeff Shane of the Jones Giselle firm, and I have the pleasure of representing Mr. and Mrs. Van Vranken. The staff comments lay the case out for you, but I thought it would be worthy of mentioning. If you'll take a look at the plat, this property should look somewhat familiar to you in that it is the tract that you approved a multiple use zone, which included an SWM zone for proposed non-processing waste transfer station, but also some PF, I2, and I1 zones. Let me mention to you that the eventual development will be substantially the same as what you saw on the zoning map as it relates to the number of lots and the access. But you may remember that we were not able to zone nor include the parcels owned by IESI Louisiana Corporation along Highway 434 when we came to you for zoning. So tonight, our objective is to create really just a lot of record, this Lot 1, which is in fact the same exact configuration of the parcel that you zoned SWM1, so that when all of the zonings are final, and that process, as you may know, is going through the council system very smoothly, I might add. It was introduced in August and will come up at the September council meeting for consideration for adoption. We want to have a parcel of record that will allow the company to swap its holdings in the parcel that it owns along Highway 434 for this parcel 1. And by creating a lot of record, we will be able to do that. We do intend, as I say, to come back and create the other lots in the same configuration with the same zones that we presented to you as a zoning commission. With that having been said, we ask that you, of course, approve this minor subdivision this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Is there any objection to this? I'm going to close the floor to the public and turn it over to council. Mr. Davis?
Yes, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Once this Lot 2 is developed for A1 and everything, how are people actually going to be able to get to the site?
We do not anticipate Lot 2 remaining in its current configuration. Lot 2 will be subdivided. You may remember that, and I should have probably brought it to hand out to you since I realized you wouldn't have it with you this evening, but the westerly portion of Lot 2 is not only zoned PF,
Right.
but it will actually be a part of Lot 3. And Lot 2 and Lot 3 will be accessed off of the driveway that runs through the 20.5 acre parcel, pretty much coming in. If you look at the southern tip
Right.
of Lot 1, that's the area of the cul-de-sac where the connecting road will come in from Highway 434. To meet the requirements of your ordinance, we did show a 35-foot private drive servitude running along and
Right.
inside the eastern boundary, but that was only so that we could get approval for these lots this evening. We intend to never construct that road. We intend to abandon it. There will be no access at the southeast corner of this property because that's not really a proper
Right.
access point in our view for development purposes. But it does, I guess, facilitate us creating the lot tonight, which is really the purpose of this exercise.
Thank you.
Any other comments from any of the commissioners? Mr. Davis?
I have a question for staff, too. I mean, and I'm looking, I know how this butts up against Interstate 12, but you can't take that in consideration for the 300-foot frontage, correct?
Typically do, I mean, technically, it doesn't have public road access.
Right.
But yes, it does abut a public road. That would be something I would throw over to Mr. Hand if he wants to look at that.
Mr. Hand, would you like to comment on that, please?
I knew that was coming.
I think that Ron is correct in that you have to have access. And I mean, this is butting up against the interstate. We all know they don't have access to the interstate. It would be another issue we'd have to take up with the state if they tried to gain access that way, which I don't think they're going to be able to.
Okay. Well, thanks for the clarification. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is MS 12-07-028, a 3.06 acre parcel into parcels A and B, Ward 1, District 1. Owners Robert and Sheila Graham. Surveyors LS Land Surveying LLC. Council Districts, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal also requires I'm sorry, let me turn to my pages here. This also requires a waiver also as well. The owner is proposing to create two lots from one parent parcel. However, Lot 2 does not meet the minimum lot frontage requirements 300 feet for A1 suburban zoning, which requires a waiver of the regulations. Said parcel is considered, however, a flag lot and opens up into a 2+ acre parcel with a width of 170 feet approximately, 290 feet back from the front of LA Highway 1085. The staff has no objections to the proposed minor subdivision request and supports the waiver for the lot frontage. Again, 8 votes is required in order to waive the requirement.
Mr. Shane.
Thank you. Jeff Shane again, from Jones Fussell. I represent the property owners, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Graham. And Mrs. Graham happens to be my secretary of 25 years. This is a parcel that they own that abut their residence. They have 2 adult daughters and hope to have both daughters eventually build homes next to them. One of the daughters is ready to build on Lot B now, and for that reason, we'd like to create 2 lots of record as configured. So we would appreciate the commission considering the waiver and approving the minor subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Any objections from the public? We'll close the floor to the public. Commissioners, Mr. Matthews.
Jeff, I just have one question, clarification, really. The Lot B's access to 1085, how wide is that?
20 feet.
Is that 20 feet?
Yes, sir.
Is that sufficient to put a
Yes,
driveway in?
For a private drive,
Okay.
yes.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Davis. Ms. Casbon, you had your light on? All right, please vote. Takes 8 votes on this. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. All right, on page 3, we move on to tentative subdivision review. SD 12-08-004, Garden Walk, Ward 3, District 5. Developer owner is Denzel L. Clark. The engineer is Kelly McHugh and Associates. Honorable Marty Gould. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposed development has jurisdiction on wetlands. Therefore, the developer should be required to submit a copy of an approved Army Corps of Engineers permit to the Department of Engineering, if applicable, prior to receiving a work order in conjunction with the preliminary subdivision review process. Comment 2, Parish Code requires that land clearing permit be applied for and obtained through the Department of Development prior to the developer receiving a work order in conjunction with the preliminary subdivision review process. Number 3, a preliminary draft copy of the Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions should be remitted to this department for review prior to the developer receiving a work order in conjunction with the preliminary subdivision approval process. Number 4, the developer has depicted green space and amenities within the development pursuant to Parish Code requirements. Therefore, the developer should be prepared to present a recreational development plan for staff review and approval prior to the developer receiving a work order in conjunction with the preliminary subdivision review process. Number 5, the developer has incorporated all of the requirements, conditions, and stipulations for a plan unit development where applicable on the tentative plat pursuant to the rezoning. The staff recommends approval of the project subject to the developer complying with all staff comments. Engineering has several comments.
A lateral ditch currently crosses this site. It will have to be relocated and pass through the site using 100-year storm event design. The Department of Engineering has construction plans for Emerald Forest Boulevard. Coordination will be necessary to determine what portion of these plans will need to be implemented for the extension of Emerald Forest Boulevard. The extension of Emerald Forest Boulevard is the responsibility of the developer. Off-site drainage will need to be determined in the hydrological study and be accepted into the subdivision's drainage. Covenant number 6 should be modified to also require that the finished floor elevation be at least 12 inches above the crown of the road. The traffic impact analysis for this development has been received and is under review. 3 driveways off of Emerald Forest Boulevard extension will not be allowed. The developer will modify the plan to show 1 or 2 driveways. Median cut shall be a minimum of 500 feet apart. Need a stormwater site plan indicating BMP selection and placement with legend and BMP details for preliminary. Need a copy of the LDEQ stormwater permit letter with agency interest number prior to work order. Need a copy of the SWIP maintained on the construction site for stormwater inspections.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Paul Moore on behalf of Mr. Clark. This is the project that the commission considered last week. With regards to the staff comments, we have no objection to any of the comments that either Mr. Keller or Mr. Carroll have have put into the record. A few comments with regards to some of the engineering notes. First, with regards to Emerald Forest Boulevard, we recognize, and you may recall that I noted during the zoning process that we will have to extend Emerald Forest to be able to get access to the property. We know that that will be our responsibility. I just wanted to note for the commission's edification that we would intend to speak with the councilman and with the administration about the possibility of there being some offset for our traffic impact fees, since it is a parish road that we'll be extending. But that being said, that will be a decision made by them, and we recognize that ultimately it is our responsibility. With regards to item number 6, you'll recall at zoning that we have modified the plan such that our westernmost driveway is now a cul-de-sac, and the easternmost driveway will be a right-in, right-out once Emerald Forest is extended, so we should be in compliance there. And likewise, with number 7, that address as well, we know there'll be we'll only have one median cut, that will be the center drive. The easternmost drive, again, will be right in, right out, so we recognize that that will not have a median cut and have no objection to that. With that said, we would respectfully request approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Is there any objection from the public? Close the floor to the public. Commissioners, Mr. Davis.
Paul, just one
sir.
small little question.
Yes.
Since this cul-de-sac, which is actually in Phase 1, how are you going to access this property? And then once these lots are built out, how are the people going to access if this is a cul-de-sac?
Originally, prior to the cul-de-sac, that went all the way through, and that was going to be Phase 1. We're going to have to switch the phases, and that will be reflected on the preliminary plan, so that the center drive, where we have the access, will be Phase 1 going forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Matthews?
I just have one question really of staff. I understand the traffic impact analysis has been received and is under review. I'd like to know what it will take for us to get a copy of these. I personally would like to see these, this one particular, but in the future, I'd like to see about getting those, because I like to review those, because I've had some questions with several of them.
I'll let Rebecca know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Davis, seconded by Mr. Manella. Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is SD 12 let's see, we tabled that one, didn't we? Next one.
No, River Club is on.
Okay. Next one is SD 12-08-005, River Club, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner is Delta Land Holding LLC. Engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates. Parish Council District is Honorable Marty Dean. Developer requests tabling on this, staff?
Yes, sir. If you recall, at your last zoning meeting last week, you denied this request. The developer is in the process of appealing this to the council, so he would like this tabled pending that appeal for the zoning.
Okay. Mr. Matthews?
Table.
Motion to table, seconded by Mr. Willie. Please vote. Who we missing? Motion carries. Thank you. Preliminary subdivision review. MS 12-06-003P as in Paul, Planche Estates, Ward 3, District 3. Developer owner is 110 Capital Pool 2 LLC. Engineer is Kelly McHugh and Associates, Parish Council District, Honorable Red Thompson. Developer request tabling on this. Staff?
The developer's request that the project be tabled. Department of Engineering has no objection to this request. We had a substantial list of comments in a letter that went out, and I think due to the quantity of comments we had, they decided to request tabling.
Move to table.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Willie, seconded by Mr. Matthews to table. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Final subdivision review, SD 04-02-007, F is in Frank 2, C is in Charlie. Natchez Trace Phase 2C, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner Lonesome Development, engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates. Council District's Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on July 30th, 2012. The inspection disclosed all concrete roads are constructed, road shoulders need to be constructed, and the roadside ditches are functioning. The following uncompleted items exist at the time of final inspection: need engineers' periodic inspection reports, need base test results, need concrete test results. Subdivision plat needs the following: remove note number 5, since lots 127 through 148 are not within Phase 2C. Need tabulation of driveway culvert size, type, and material required. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of $31,000 for a period of 1 year. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request, subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. No mandatory developmental fees are required since the polling hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Environmental Services has comments.
Negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not been issued by DHH as required. A letter of acceptance for responsibility and perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not been issued by the utility provider. Staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request, subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats are to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you. Mr. Doherty, Jeff Shane of Jones Fussell. I represent the owner and developer Lonesome Development LLC with regard to Natchez Trace Phase 2C. We're in accord with all staff comments and commit to do all items as requested, and understand that plats will not be signed and recorded until they're completed to staff's satisfaction.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Any objection from the public? Close the poll. Mr. Matthews to the
I
question.
want to comment that this is the way I really like to see the final request for subdivision. A few, very technical, just paperwork exceptions, and I move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Matthews to approve. Got a second by Mr. Willie Buck.
I have one question, Jeff. Real quick. I know I'm getting into this game late, but I noticed on the south side where it abuts that portion, it looks like there are buffers, but on the north where it's going to back up to Christwood, the delineation between the back of the lots going across there and the property from Christwood, is that just going to be a fence or what?
Well, I think where residential abuts MD district, there should be a fencing requirement, I would think. I believe so. So yes, sir, there should be a residential fence there.
So there'll be a residential fence all along that northern border?
Where the lots abut MD, I'm not sure about, well, not where the future phase is shown until that future phase is developed.
Well, when the future phase,
But yes, sir, I'm confident that the regs not only require that, but I would imagine our restrictive covenants require it as well. But I can't say that with certainty because I didn't look at that issue before tonight, and I don't have any data with me to support that.
well, I guess what I was looking at is that, and again, I apologize for getting in late on it, but people with children running back and forth in Christwood where you're going to have little kids and elderly people, that looks like there needs to be some demarcation of some sort.
Sure. Well, I don't think that portion of Christwood is developed, but that still doesn't mean that.
But it could be.
No, sir, I respect that. I would say this, I think certainly whatever your regulations require as it relates to a residential district abutting the institutional or medical district, we will observe, because that's the law.
Any other comments from the commissioners? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Proposed amendments to ordinance 499. None. Old business? Commissioners, staff? New business?
Sydney. Sydney.
Does our training come under new business?
Yes.
I
Mr.
think- I think-
Fontenot.
It's public.
I think
Make a
we're-
motion
I
to
think-
have Sydney train us.
I think we're gonna close the meeting and then do the training. All right, motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Thank you.